I felt like an imposter. I felt that my work wasn't as good as because I was not a trained coder. Don't be afraid to charge what you're worth because you're only going to end up kicking yourself in the ass later. Sometimes taking projects that are underpaying you cost you money. A common misconception is that if I lower my prices and I keep my prices low, I'm going to get the job. What you do every time that you don't charge what you're worth, you fuck with your psyche, you fuck with your emotions, and you fuck with your bag. Because I'm taking care of myself, which is what you need to learn how to do, Black women. We cannot let people overwork us and underpay us anymore. Hey everyone, welcome to the Coffee No Cream podcast. My name is Erin Braxton and I am your host of Coffee No Cream. Here on Coffee No Cream, we are unapologetically dedicated to Black women and we share what I like to call Coffee No Cream moments, those things that happen to us Black women in business and in life just because we are Black. Today we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about the value that you place on what it is you do, what it is you bring to the table, and the psychological warfare that happens when you misjudge and undervalue yourself. Before we get started, I ask that you guys please like, please share, please subscribe. Again, my goal with this podcast is to create a community of women that is a safe space for us to have the conversations that need to be had. We can share our experiences of what we're going through on a day-to-day basis. And we do that here on the platform. Now, I also have a Facebook community, the link is below, where we can continue the conversation. Everyone can't get on here and talk about this kind of stuff openly and publicly because they have jobs, they have things they're concerned about. They don't need the heat, they don't need the eyeballs. So in the Facebook community, it is a safe place where we have discussions and keep the conversation moving. So with that, guys, I'm going to get into the episode. Now, one of the things that led me to this conversation and wanting to have this conversation this week is last week, I had a previous client reach out to me on LinkedIn and she wanted me to build her an e-commerce website and she had a budget of $1,000. Now, this client was my client over 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago, she was paying more than $1,000. So I don't know where she got that number. I don't know why she's so delusional in even thinking that she can come to me and ask for something at that price. I have a little bit of a reason because I do not believe with everything within me that she would go to a white man and ask him to do a website for $1,000. And this was an e-commerce website, a website where she was selling CBD products. CBD is a tricky thing. CBD is tricky because the regulations vary per state. Shipping, otherwise, all of that. There are really tricky situations when it comes to payment processing for CBD companies. Just too much to even be bothered for $1,000. And, I wished her well. I wished her the best of luck, told her, it's not going to be a fit. Was I a little insulted at first, but I let that go. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to bring it up on the podcast. This is a conversation that we need to have because I have struggled with pricing myself, valuing what it is I bring to the table for many, many, many years. And I'm just going to be like open and honest and tell you how I feel about it. And, you guys can comment below and share your experience as well. But as you guys know, I used to work in an advertising agency and I made okay money. I know I wasn't making the most. I know there had been situations where people who were in the same position as people who had not worked as long as me were making more. And, in my mind, there really wasn't much I could do about that. It was either deal with it or go, right? But when I started working for myself, particularly with this business, the Rebel Geek, where I do web development, I was self-taught. I was coming off of a bankruptcy. I was coming off of financial ruin, and I was pretty raw. I was pretty insecure about my financial position because I had none. I was starting back at zero. While I was relieved that the phone calls stopped and I could shove that debt out of the way and just start fresh, I was insecure about it because, I had no credit at that time. I had no money. I didn't even know what I was going to do as far as a career. So when I started the Rebel Geek, I kind of stumbled into it. As I told in a previous episode, I decided to build this website, ineedablackhairstylist.com, and I didn't know how to do it, so I had to teach myself how to do it. I decided to build it on WordPress. I was learning as I went. And when I really got going and people started paying me to do that work, I was charging low prices because I felt like an imposter. I felt that my work wasn't as good as because I was not a trained coder, right? So it's actually crazy when I look back at it now because somebody can come to me and get the same nice looking end result, which is a good looking functional website that did the job. And I was going to charge a fraction of, say, what a white boy would charge because in my mind, it was less valuable because I wasn't a trained coder. So it's like really, really hard to know what your right prices are. Okay. And everybody has to get there. Like, I don't know what it is you do. Maybe you are in an industry where you can charge $50 an hour, or you're in an industry where you can only charge $25 an hour. Whatever it is, figure it out. Make sure that you're offering the proper, a quality product and service, and go get your money. Okay? Don't be afraid to charge what you're worth because you're only going to end up kicking yourself in the ass later. Now, don't overcharge. I think there's a lot of people, and you know what? I'm not even going to say that. Charge what you charge. If you charge $500 an hour and you can get it, get it. I remember I worked with a guy years ago. He was 26 at the time. This is when I first started building websites, and I had him help me do a few things. Somebody introduced me to him, and this white boy was out here charging $600 an hour. And I didn't get it. I thought he was just doing that because he would tell people that when he was busy, so he could just kind of get them off his back because he was so busy. And he said, but sometimes they pay it. So that was my lesson. And it still took me years to get it after that. It's like me trying to gauge what you think is the right value, unless somebody comes to you and says, this is what I have, like this woman did to me on this web project. And I was just like, not having it. I'm like, no, there's just no point in us talking because you're so far from where you need to be for me to even touch it is crazy. And a lot of people might say, well, why wouldn't you take that project? I mean, that's, $1,000. I'm not at the point where I need to do that. Sometimes taking projects that are underpaying you cost you money. It costs you. Why would I take a project, or you take a project that costs you so much in your time and in your physical capital of time, okay, that you're locked down and you can't do anything else? So you've taken on a project. The project is way more than you thought. You're spending far too long only for a small amount of money leaving money on the table for other projects, not even allowing you the opportunity to go for other projects. How does that even make sense? When you are so hemmed up trying to get a little bit of money, and don't get me wrong, I'm not being unreasonable, or I do understand sometimes we have to do what we have to do. I recently took a project, especially after I left that client, I quit working for them. I took a project from somebody I shouldn't have taken a project from. I mean, it's not the worst client ever, but it's certainly taking up more time than they paid for. Because I wanted to take it, you need to take it, you feel like, okay, I could use this money. But the time I'm spending months later dealing with this person, I could be working on other things. And that's what I'm saying to you is like, you can take a lesser project, you can value yourself less, but you have to consider the complete picture, okay? Your value isn't just how much you're charging, but it's taking you off of the market. It's taking you out of the game for a minute to tend to that piece of business. So it's more than just what they're paying you. It's taking you away from potential money as well. So you have to consider all of that, right? Really sit down, do the work, figure out what it is that you deserve to make, that you need to make, and don't be afraid to charge those prices. I am talking to you as much as I'm talking to me right now, because this is still something that I'm learning. This is still something that I'm working on. It's hard. It's always been hard for me, right? But people will take advantage of us, Black women, because we're so giving. And we're so used to being in a specific position. Like, I already know, and I shouldn't, some people will judge me for this, but I know that there are white boys that do the exact thing that I do, and they're charging way more than I do. And I have to get myself there mentally to charge what they charge. And I'm working on that, and I'm doing better, right? And all I can tell you is, having worked on the last few projects and really gotten my worth without having to argue or justify, it feels amazing. It builds your confidence. It makes you stand taller. You can hold your head up higher and know that if you can get that from that client, you can get it from another one. So part of my magic is that I have learned how to build some really great, not just build, but engineer some business systems using web tools. I'm really good at that. And over the years of doing what it is that I do, I have been able to do that. I have been able to grow beyond just like a web girl. I can use systems, application processes, membership environments, tools that will do a lot of the heavy lifting in your business. However, I did not value what it is that I did. I'm going to digress a little bit and go back to this story about this woman who came to me for this low ball offer. And I think about this because I think it has a lot to do with why I price myself low. There is a hood mentality when it comes to, and it's not even really a hood mentality. It's a mentality from other ethnicities that feel like they can come to the hood, or a Black person, sometimes a Latin person, lots of times a Latin person, Latino, Latina, and get something for less money. My dad talks about it with his auto body business. He had an auto body shop in the hood. And white boys would come all the way to the hood, pass up numerous dealerships, numerous higher end body shops to come to him because they knew they were going to get a cheaper price. And I feel like this has definitely happened to me in my career. And it couldn't have happened to me if I didn't allow it to happen to me, right? I didn't allow people to pay me less because I wasn't charging more. It happened a lot. I've worked with people over the years who became conditioned to a lower price point, and then when you try to elevate and move out of that, then there's a problem. So the problem with that is when you are undervaluing yourself, it's really hard for other people to value correctly. A common misconception is that if I lower my prices and I keep my prices low, I'm going to get the job. And you just have to think about it, right? So every time you undervalue yourself, it has a psychological impact on you. Not only are you not getting the amount of money that you could get, you are telling yourself and saying to yourself, as well as the person that you're charging, that you are only worth this amount of money, which is crazy. A lot of times people think that if they keep their prices low, they'll get the job. They think that the cheaper they are, the more likely they'll get the job. They think that if they raise their prices, they're not going to get the job. Black women, a lot of times, we are so willing and ready to offer our services, to be of service, to be useful, to prove that we deserve to be in the room. It's just in our nature, even though people will say that we're aggressive and we're loud and we don't have feelings. It's not true. We're very nurturing and wanting to help and be in community with people. We just want to assist. All right. But a lot of times we're not being compensated for that assistance. We're not. People just expect us to be there. They expect you to do it and not charge, right? I had a lot of this happen with this client that I had for 11 years. There was tons of scope creep. And in my fight to be a perfect person, a perfect worker, to show that I'm perfectly capable and I am the girl that should be here, I would do these things. And there was a lot of scope creep in the work that I did. But what you do every time that you don't charge what you're worth, you really mess with yourself. You fuck with yourself, if I'm being totally candid and blunt, okay? You fuck with your psyche, you fuck with your emotions, and you fuck with your bag. Let's be honest, okay? So somebody comes to you, they ask you to do something, and you're so excited that they asked you to do it. And oh my gosh, I have this opportunity. And you're so used to not charging what you could charge. You charge a little bit less. Then you get into relation with these people, this client, whomever, and they start asking you to do a little bit more. And can you do this? And can you do this? And you're just trying to be of service. So you keep doing that shit, right? And before you know it, you are drowning in work from this person. And you haven't given them one additional invoice. You haven't said, whoa, uncle, I can't do it. This is too much. You just keep trying to hold on and be of service, yet you're not getting compensated properly. Eventually, it causes resentment, anxiety, stress, sleeplessness. You see what I'm saying? So why is it that we feel that we should charge less money? Because they won't come to us? They won't utilize our services? If you go to Neiman Marcus and there's a t-shirt and it costs $100, and you go to, I don't know, I don't want to say that store, but let's just say Kohl's, and there's a t-shirt and it costs, a tenth of the price. They're both t-shirts. Is one better than the other? In the world of manufacturing, probably not really, right? Do we feel that the Neiman Marcus t-shirt is better quality than the Kohl's t-shirt? Probably, exactly. Yes, we do. Absolutely. Because they have put a higher price on that thing. Psychologically, we think this is a better t-shirt. This is the Neiman Marcus t-shirt, and this is the Kohl's t-shirt. It's the same thing that happens when it comes to you pricing things. Just because you price your stuff low doesn't mean people are going to value you. I would argue that it has the opposite effect. When you price yourself low, people don't value you as much. It's psychological. It's just the way it is. And quite frankly, why do we do it? Because the price is not a reflection of how good of a job we're doing. I recently had a client come to me. They were looking for an application. It was it's a very well-known big financial services company, and they are doing a grant program that they are rolling out city by city. It's going to be a national program, and they needed an application. Okay. And at first it was presented to me like, oh, we need a form. And I was like, okay. And the guy's like, I'm going to give you 5 figures. He came up with the money. He just came up with that price to keep you available, right? And this guy is cool as shit. Do not get me wrong. I love him, okay? But in that moment, I was like, I can't just accept this 5 figures and let it be open-ended work. I had to put a value to that figure, meaning I can't just say, oh, you gave me this figure and I'm going to work on you until the job is done. What I did was I divided that figure by my hourly rate. I invoiced him like he asked me to. And I'm like, okay, for that figure, these are the number of hours that you're going to get. Now, this project is really doing a lot for me, because not only have I had to go back to this guy 4 times, it'll be 4, I think this week, 4 times for him to replenish those hours, because I set up a value to that money instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'll take X amount of dollars and I'll just do it for you. I would have shot myself in the foot and been screwed completely, because we have worked, 300 hours on this thing, tons. Okay. So I get to go back to him and say, hey, I'm out of money. And he replenishes the money. He says, invoice me, I got you. And he pays me every single time. So not only am I getting what I'm worth, okay, because I put up a boundary. I put up a boundary around the money. But it's also doing something to me psychologically, doing something to me emotionally, where in the past, I've lowballed things. I've not charged what I was worth. I've gone above and beyond to do all these extra little things, and I'm not getting paid for them, in turn becoming, resentful and overworked and underpaid. This has given me confidence. This has given me a boost in my ego. Now, yeah, I know we do great work. I did amazing things on this project, and the project's going to go on hopefully for another couple of years. The company is very, very happy with what I did. They tell me what you're doing is excellent work. Do you know how good it is to hear that? And then also to know that I'm charging my hourly rate. I'm not like overextending myself for nothing. And every time I run out of these hours, I just send another invoice in with not even a care, because I'm taking care of myself, which is what you need to learn how to do, Black women. We cannot let people overwork us and underpay us anymore, because people know in their mind, psychologically, they think they can get a better deal because you're so desperate, or you want the opportunity so much to prove ourselves, because that's generally how we roll, right? And it's real interesting. I have always been the type of person that when I put forth an estimate, I'm always trying to gauge the value of that recipient of the estimate has on what I do, instead of saying to myself, hey, this is what I cost, this is what it's going to be, and giving them the estimate, right? And every time I do that, it just causes me so much stress. So I'm one of those people that I hate to give people estimates. I hate to talk about money. And it's not something I should even admit saying, but I'm saying it to you here because I always feel still I struggle that that person is going to think I'm not worth it. It's not worth it. And, I'm curing myself of that disorder as we speak. So I just want to urge you to make sure that you're really like taking the time to establish your value. Like for me, I had a conversation. I like to use Claude. Claude is my guy, Claude.ai. I use Claude instead of ChatGPT to really help understand what it is I do. Because sometimes it's hard to like step back and really figure out your value in a situation. I know that I do more than just build websites. I build systems, I engineer systems. And I was working that through with Claude to figure out, some of the things I need to do as far as marketing for my business, how to communicate like my value and my worth beyond just building a website, because anybody can do that truly. And I think it's an exercise that all of us Black women need to take, because so often we get stuck in a rut and we feel like there's nowhere to go but where we are. We feel like there's no way out of our situation. And I think when you really can assign a true value to what it is you do, what you have to offer, what you bring to the table, and stand on that firmly and proudly and say it without fear. So for me, that would look like, oh, you want this job done, and then you go through it. This is the price. And you put it forward, and you don't try to explain your prices. You don't even do that. It's just what it is, right? I think that's what that looks like, Black women. So often we want to be in the assistant role. So assisting somebody to feel better about the prices that we're putting forward. If it makes them feel better, if it helps them, I'm off that. So psychologically, you guys, figure out your value, figure out your worth, figure out what you bring to the table, charge what you're worth. Because I can tell you, egotistically, working with people who value what I do, who are fine with paying my invoices, who don't try to get my prices down, who don't try to diminish what it is I do, that's the best client to have. And that goes for your employer as well. Working for people who don't diminish what you do in an effort to pay you less, that's everything. The psychological warfare that comes upon us when we don't charge enough, when we don't speak up, advocate for ourselves, and get our bag and get what we deserve is literally, it's just unnecessary. When we learn that, like I have learned, it's a game changer. So hopefully, guys, this has been helpful. And yeah, share some experiences with me in the comments. I want to hear, because this money thing is very, very, it's a delicate conversation, and it's very touchy for a lot of us. And, some people's idea of a lot of money is different than somebody else's. It doesn't matter. Like I recently was talking to somebody, and they were acting like $60,000 or $70,000 was a lot of money for them, right? But to somebody else, that's like poverty, right? And I'm not here to say whether it is or it isn't. I'm just saying, what is the value for you? What makes sense for you? Whatever that is, that's what you need to be charging, because you've got to be the one that deals with you, and you're the one that is having to deal with the repercussions of undercharging when you don't charge enough, right? So what feels right to you? Put a value on it. Make sure you get what you're worth. And if not, keep it moving, because there is somebody out there that is willing to pay you what you're worth. I hope this helps, guys. Again, leave a comment, share your experiences, and I will see you in the next episode.